Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 25 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to sort stone in order to get phosphorus, and then use that phosphorus to make fertilizer. Enjoy. So we need 6 sorters and 19 crushers. It's kind of a weird process how that works. Now, it would be really nice if we had a circuit network to handle this, but since we don't, we're going to kind of have to figure out how to do it in place here. Fortunately, this setup wasn't really designed to have a priority for phosphor sorting here. And then we need 23.4 inserters, again, across 6 machines, so that's 4 inserters going out per machine. And then 66, or here we go, no, 46.7 going back in, which is not really going to work very well. So I'm just going to use loaders, since that's a huge, like an enormous quantity of stone. That's actually something that doing loaders for makes a little more sense. Okay, and those are all our outputs. We're technically going to be belt limited here because I only have 2 belts, which has a total of 30 items per second, but we're going to have 28 slag and 4 phosphorus ore, which is 32, so it's going to be a little maxed out, but it should still work okay. Okay, I think I've got the setup here ready to go. Time to test, but the idea is 2 belts of stone. Basically, the entire factory's worth of stone is sent on these 2 belts here, and there's priority splitters, so all the output will come here if it's available, and then it gets sent up through the sorters, which will sort it and produce slag and phosphorus, which they will just place on these 2 belts here, and they will fill them up basically. Then they come around, and all of the slag is going to get picked up and crushed here and put on these 4 outside belts. Then when it gets down to the bottom, any slag that might make there won't make it past this priority splitter here, and then it'll just be the phosphorus ore that comes down to be sent on its way. Meanwhile, all of this crushed stone will go through this chest here, and because of the quantity of stuff we're moving, our inserters aren't fast enough, so this is a good application of loaders. And I'm using this just as a balancer, a smaller balancer basically, where it just puts everything in and then will equally spit it out on these 6 belts here, and then they will be shot back in. Now, I'm not sure how the priority work between having a loader going in and these inserters, but something tells me the loader is going to end up getting more work done just because of how much faster it is than the inserters are. But let's plug it in and see how it works. See how brick making is basically going to stop now because it's setting everything up here. And this system kind of feeds in on itself with the slag, so the faster it goes, the more it's going to fill up these belts, and the more these machines it's going to end up using. At least that's how I think it's going to work. But there's the phosphorus ore. Anyways, might have to let it go for a while to watch it feed in on itself and get to maximum speed, but it will only go at maximum speed if we have our full factory's worth of output of stone, which we do not, so it won't be capable of going at full speed. But I'm okay if it was overbuilt. Like, that's fine as long as it gets the job done, does all the processing we need to do. Just seems to be just leaving the phosphorus left over. Looks good so far. Probably got a ton of bricks saved up here, so it's time to place them all. Looks like while I was designing that, we completely consumed all of that wood that we had stored up. And now we're just producing it through our arboretums, just growing it efficiently. See, it looks fairly complicated, but that's because a lot of this stuff we're already doing. We need to do the air separation, the ammonia, and then all of this. Okay, we need to turn that sulfur dioxide into sulfuric acid. Hey, it lines up for once. And we need to supply it with some purified water from up here. This should be a closed loop system that works independently, but I'm not terribly confident that it will work, just because different parts of the factory work at different rates, or to have different needs. And since we don't have a circuit network, we have to kind of be clever with this. So I'll just have an overflow valve, so it will allow purified water to build up to be used for making sulfuric acid. Okay, that's hooked up. Now it just needs purified water. For now, let's preload the system here. And let's just put a chest here for now. I'm not sure how long this is going to stay here. Let's let this run up and collect that sulfuric acid. Now we need to get phosphorus ore down here. So that thing's running. Producing compressed air. And this is separating it. This is kind of where having a circuit network would be nice, because now this is completely filled up. Though we can temporarily get rid of it with a petrochem tank. Although having the tank actually might be kind of nice to absorb fluctuations in the system. So now we just need the red metal catalysts here. Now those are working, creating fertilizer. We need probably down here somewhere. But that was fairly complicated. And now we can consume all of that sulfur dioxide gas, so we won't have that byproduct. So now we have a new byproduct of calcium sulfate, but it's in much lesser quantities. So it's a more compact byproduct, so we have less of it now. So what are we doing with that fertilizer? Let's see. Click here. Say the fertilizer is now going to go into desert gardens. Calculated by input, which we actually only need one farm, despite the fact that these gardens take 1,000 seconds to grow. We only need one farm because we're just not producing it very fast. We only need 1 saline water per second. And our wood setup here is using 214 saline waters per second. So if we grow some gardens, we can use one of it. And also, laughably small amount of sand. Does it have to be washed sand? Yes. So why did it stop? Oh, phosphoric acid is out because we're waiting on the phosphorus. Since we need saline water, and since we need washed sand, which comes from the washing plants, we might as well send all of this fertilizer back down to where all these plants are. So we need one farm and one washing plant. So the farm is going to need that saline water and some washed sand. This would have been a good reason to have these things split apart, because now that they're not split apart, I can't easily snag some of that water. That's frustrating. Yep, mistakes were made. It should have been spaced out. Probably the easiest way to do this is just to have another line of 5 washing plants here to make the sand necessary for the farm. So really what we need to make is actually quite similar to this in appearance. Except this last one, instead of making saline water, it will make washed sand. Man, this thing, 500 washed sand. You can see how long it's taking, but also shows how long the thing's going to take to grow. Now we just need to wait for the fertilizer to get down here, if we even have 500 fertilizer. This does not look like 500 fertilizer. Nope. 164. Quite short. Well, that's okay. Just knowing that that sulfur dioxide gas has somewhere to go now, so we're not just collecting a bunch of it. We have a nice closed loop system. Makes it all worth it. We are running quite low on sapphire, yeah, 19%. So how is this actually working out? We're definitely short on the phosphorus. Sulfuric acid. Sulfur dioxide gas, 32%. Okay, so hydrogen filled up. It's working on filling up the oxygen gas. And the purified water is 76.5. That's the only thing I'm not sure about here. Is this going to work properly, or are we going to have to like hook this in and unhook it? The problem is you could run into feedback loops. So see how the overflow valve says allow flow if the input side is above 80%, and then you have the top-up valve allow flow if the output side is below 80%. So you can see how they can keep running and splashing into each other and just constantly operating. So I kind of wish there were more valves. I kind of wish there was a allow flow if input is above 20% or below 20%. So that would allow you to use both an input and an output valve and not have them have a feedback loop. So that's kind of why I don't want to just leave this plugged in. It might just constantly feed back into itself, and then it's going to be electrolyzing it, turning it into oxygen. The hydrogen has somewhere to go, but the oxygen does not, and it might just fill up the oxygen system and everything would clog, because then it wouldn't be able to produce nitrogen. Fortunately, there's nothing we can do with this calcium sulfate, though I probably should put some very large chests there. Largest I have access to, because you don't know how much of that stuff's going to build up. We can eventually get rid of it. Synthesis of the sulfur dioxide from calcium sulfate, so we get some sulfur dioxide back from it. We add purified water, and then we get a lime. And lime's easy enough to get rid of. So we could eventually get rid of that and have nothing, but for now we're just going to have to deal with that small amount of byproduct. Yeah, we have huge copper overload, but that's just because we've been using a lot of iron. And you can tell the system's working properly because it's not constantly running. It's just we've needed more iron than we have copper, so it's been holding up the copper. Eventually, when we need a lot of copper, it'll go through that and the system will be balanced again. Yeah, it's not critical if we run out of sapphirite because there's a ton of iron that's in this system. Also, we could use stereotyte to make iron as well. It would just be enormous copper overload, but we could do it, so it's not critical. And that's the end of this episode. In the next one, we're going to make paper, which is useful in making circuit boards. I'll see you later.